Shalom Aleichem. We are learning the Sikha of Vayeitzei Beis. And it's a fascinating Sikha that's based on the Sikha of Simchas Torah. So, it's a very Simchas Torah kind of Sikha. And in the original Farbrengen, the Rebbe had some interesting nekudas that are worth mentioning. In Ois Gimel, the Rebbe is talking about the difference of halacha. There could be a chiluk in makam b'makam, but when it comes to salkedaitach, when it comes to limud Torah, it's possible that you have a shaila, and that's part of Torah. And the Rebbe shows an example from Pesach. Says that in Pesach, that from fregen manishtana for us. Why? Because it's a mitzvah ki yishalcha bircha. Then the son we answer the son and we give him an answer on his question. And even though there's an answer to the question, it's still a question. It doesn't stop being a question. Second night of Pesach, you ask it again. Because manishtan is a part of Torah. Meaning that mitzad Torah, there's both things. There's the maskana, as he's do atilut zum bir, there's tak an answer, and there's the salkedaitach, manishtan. And vabir bazeh, the explanation, says da daga, there's a level was mitzad ir is a sakasha. There's a level that from its perspective, it's taka question. Und says da daga was mitzad ir is da bir v'tiritz of the kasha, and there's a level that there's an answer. And because Torah is in all the dargas, so they're both true. Saya kasha and say tiritz. Now this is fascinating. Listen to this, what the Rebbe said. I never heard this. This is also the explanation on what they say b'shem Baal Shem Tov. As the Baal Shem Tov gesagt, the Baal Shem Tov said about him, as if yeder kasha can empfen and atiritz, that he can answer on any question. And if yeder tiritz can fregen kasha, and on every answer he can ask a question and answer that question. What's the pshat? The fact that in the lower world there's a question is in the higher world it's understood. There are things that even in the higher world are not understood, and then you have to come to an even higher world than that. And because there's worlds, infinite worlds, so there's always a kasha and there's always an answer in the world higher. Blikvul. It's quite a fascinating idea. So the evidence says that just like it's in Torah and B'chol Ha'olam, so too in Limud Torah Lamata, there are various levels. And he says, for example, there are many things that to a child you explain at a simple level, and after when they're older, you can explain it deeper. And there are things that when you start learning are totally ununderstood and they're a question. And when you get older and you mature, then you get the answer, which is quite fascinating. And then it obviously goes into the fact of that halacha is different, and then it goes into the point of Tzion and Yerushalayim and Kabbalah's oil, like we learned in the Sikha. And then the Rebbe says like this. Even though Emunah Kabbalah is higher than intellect, but it also has to permeate your koiches. And based on this, you can understand the Gemara that says, it's a famous Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, that Gamliel sent a message to Rabbi Yeshua because they had an argument about Lish Chodesh, and based on that, when Yom Kippur fell out, I decree that you should come with me with your stick, in other words, carrying, Ma'asecha your money, which is muktzah, b'yom kippurim shechal yes b'chaysh b'necha. The way Yom Kippur comes in your account. If you pshuta is asipur tamua, seemingly it's a strange question. In other words, yeah, he disagreed with you. It's a strange story because fine, he disagreed with you on when Yom Kippur comes. What's Rabbi Gamliel trying to accomplish? With Rabbi Gamliel is given isha chesed because he was a nasi, and a nasi is isha chesed, and the name Gamliel also shows on chesed. That's why it says Gamol b'chaloim and Gamliel milashim Gamol is a bracha. So how can it come that Rabbi Yeshua goes by Makli Moisav on Yom Kippur. It's interesting, never calls Rabbi Gamliel Chesed because it's complex. When you learn the Gemara, the famous story that Rabbi Gamliel was demoted from the position, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah took over as Nasi because he was harsh. So obviously he had both tchunas, but over here the Rebbe is focusing on the Chesed element. When al pidin volt es mechuyev, gewen mechuyev to gain is ken kashinit. If the al pidin he was mechuyev to go, then fine. But then Maisa is doch as euch be yem chol. Even in the yem chol, there's no mitzvah to walk with your stick and money. So why did he need to make him desecrate his Yom Kippur? And you can't say because he didn't want it to be different opinions, because then you should just make him announce in public that I give in. Why do they have to get him to walk the Makal Mesecha? And if Euch is nicht verstandig, also it's not understood. Why does the Mishnah tell us this story? It's a story in the Mishnah, which is unusual. What's the though? Nor the birim them is that Rabbi Gamliel was gozer on Rabbi Yeshua is this gevem mitzad chesed. It came from the chesed. He wanted to uplift Rabbi Yeshua to echad madrega. Why? Kabbalah's oil shalamayla ma'aseichel has to permeate keiches pnimim. So Rabbi Gamliel didn't want that Rabbi Yeshua should simply have stam Kabbalah's oil, but that the Kabbalah's oil should permeate keich hamaiseh. If he doesn't make an announcement, he make an announcement. He just said it, but he's not necessarily acting it out in real life. When a person of intellect, especially a person with incredible intellect, does something opposite of what legt sich up in sein seichel, it's an incredible level. And you see, when a Rav tells a simple yid as the din's kach v'kach, he takes it a pashtus. But when it's a lamdin, and especially when the lamdin could learn more than the Rav, can learn. Then takazai, as you see, how does he know that he's smarter than the Rav? Because the Rav sometimes asks him question in Tosfos and Pshat in the Rambam. Is b'shas the lamdin kum dois b'sichle as the din is anishados. If the lamdin comes to a different conclusion, and nevertheless he follows the Rav, because that's what the Rav said, is this anisoyin gadol. And that's what happened to Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua was higher than Rabbi Gamliel. Rabbi Gamliel had gesagt to Rabbi b'chachma. He calls him, you're my Rebbe in chachma, especially in astronomy. And Kiddush HaChodesh is astronomy, based on astronomy. So you see Rabbi Yeshua was higher, as you see in the Gemara Helios, etc. And he was able to point, they were on a boat, he was able to point exactly where to go, but still he listened to Rabbi Gamliel. And Rabbi Gamliel wanted him to achieve that level. And because Rabbi Yeshua is given sicher, given an ish emes, is as verstandig that as a getamit an emes. Obviously, he did it with truth, even though he felt that Yom Kippur was this. Interesting. So you could tell it was a simchas teila farbrengen with moide dika oisius, as you know, the other would say simchas teila shatnish. So there's a lot of powerful insights, but for the sake of keeping it short, we'll finish it here and wishing you all hatzlacha rava muflaga, and Mitzvah Hashem will meet next week.